Hi, this is Steve with Real Progressives. I want to talk today about unemployment. For those of you who have experienced the great financial crisis that occurred back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, and in many ways it may not look like it because the stock market's up and so forth, but we're still living it today. The effects of that are still around. Many of the things that you've taken for granted, I've taken for granted over the years, will never be the same again. We live in an economy today that is largely a gig economy. There is no more security for most people. There are some people that have great jobs, great careers. Life is just working out exactly the way they'd like for it to go. The average person is really struggling right now. The average person, if they miss a week of work, if they got laid off, they wouldn't have enough money to get them from one mortgage payment to the next mortgage payment. I think most people don't realize just because the numbers on TV say the economy is doing well, that the economy where people are living at is not doing so great. So I want to talk for a moment about myself and where I'm at in this process. Back on August 19th, I left a job that was a very, very good job. It paid very, very well. It was a job that, if everything was equal, would have been a job that you would want to have. My circumstances in my life made it so that that job and I were not compatible anymore. My son with autism created situations where my life was just not my own anymore. His circumstances prevented me from always being able to be there on time, changed the way my whole structure of my life worked. Whether it be going into work late, whether it be having to get off right on time to pick him up from daycare, whatever it wasn't working. And I had to take care of business. And knowing that when he turned 3, he would no longer be in early intervention, that he would need to go into intermediate care, we had to make very, very drastic decisions. I have been struggling. I thought that it would be quick. I didn't think there'd be any issue because, after all, the economy's supposed to be booming, right? Well, I have plenty of education, plenty of degrees, 20 plus, 30, almost 30 years of experience in my field. I'm good at what I do. I'm very good at what I do. And I'm still struggling to find work. It's now October. The funds have been depleted. And I've got an autistic child. And there's nothing, the only thing that's changed is that I no longer have a job. So when I talk to people about these circumstances, and I explain to people how this whole thing works, people want to tell you, well, you got to reinvent yourself, Steve. You got to find a new way to do. Hey, why don't you move somewhere else where there's work? Don't turn your nose up at any job given to you. And all of a sudden, all these people that really don't know my circumstances, and I'm using me because I can talk about me, but it could be anyone, right? This is the plight of the unemployed person. The advice that comes through the door is always advice based in privilege, based in some austerity, just live your life as low as you can kind of pushback. It's like, well, maybe you should just sell your house and get rid of everything you own, live in a small house off the grid, and then this unemployment thing won't matter. Stuff like that. I mean, it's that ridiculous what people say. Now, don't get me wrong. There may be merit in doing that. But when someone is sitting there staring down the barrel of unemployment, the last thing in the world they need, the last thing in the world that they need is privileged advice that has no bearing whatsoever on their real life. I sometimes wonder if people realize exactly how condescending and just completely ill-timed some of this quote-unquote advice is. Hey, You who have $127,000 worth of student loans, maybe it's time for you to change career fields. Maybe it's time for you to stop managing projects. Well, there's project management jobs all over the place, but they're not within 2 hours of the house. So now you're in this really, really bad position because your son and all the services and everything else are right there. You don't have the money to get rid of your house. You see what I'm saying? Very privileged, quick. You know, hey, here's, let me just give you some advice you never thought of. Everybody always wants to tell you to kind of live down. Well, why don't you sell your car, and why don't you get rid of, all your clothes, and you don't need a TV, and you don't need, it's fine, whatever, that's cool. But again, when the power goes out, because you can't afford the electricity, now what are you doing, right? Unemployment in this country, there is no real safety net. There's no real safety net whatsoever. It is literally you're on your own. And for those people that have child support, the first thing that happens is the child support is garnished from the unemployment. Unemployment, I think, might be at the high end, I don't know, let's say $500 every week or something like that. That might get you through until you find another job. Maybe. But when they take 55% of your unemployment before you get your first dollar, that barely pays for the gas money to go back and forth to job interviews. That barely pays for the food for the kids. And it barely pays for the electricity. I think people sometimes have a very privileged idea. When the sun is shining on them, they forget these things. But the average American doesn't even have 1 week's savings in their bank account. That's no joke. Most people don't even have $500 to their name. And when you were a little kid, $500 may have felt like a lot of money. But as a grown-up, you know $500 is nothing. It's nothing. So when we talk about a federal job guarantee here, invariably we hear people bring up automation, which is infuriating. Because if you look around anywhere, you go in your community anywhere, and you tell me everything is perfect, you're lying. Your entire community is probably run down. You got bridges falling apart. You've got roadways peeling up. You've got crap everywhere that is screwed up. Your schools are shitty. Your playgrounds at your schools. Maybe you're one of those people that live in a really nice community where the school has a really nice playground. But let me assure you, most places, everything's run down. There is work to be done everywhere. The problem is there isn't funding for work to be done everywhere. Why is that? Because most states are financially strapped. Because they're in a race to the bottom. Because states like Kansas and states like Texas cut the bottom out of their taxes, suck the business down there, and they leave people stranded across the country. Because businesses leave and they're the people. They can't go anywhere. They're stuck. They're screwed. The one place that can fix that is the federal government. By making states whole so that these states can't keep doing the race to the bottom. And once they eliminate the race to the bottom, the local communities can be served by the people. A federal job guarantee allows people dignity. It allows them mobility, and it gives them a living wage when the times are tough. It sets the floor. So when you hear people talk automation, you got to really wonder, do they really care about people? What is the problem there? Because the reality is, it's not serving them. We need a federal job guarantee very badly. I want you to know, the last financial crisis, there was no safety net for the 99%. With the student loan bubble, is at 1.5 trillion. And it doesn't matter if you're unemployed or not. They'll just pile more and more interest on top of that. They'll defer it for a little bit for a price, for a huge price. You can defer your student loans for a while for a huge price. It's always waiting for you around the corner. There is no escape. And I blame this on our federal government, and I blame this on our elected officials, and I blame this on the people that tell us not to keep fighting for economic justice because they just want to vote blue no matter who. I blame this on the people that refuse to learn but have things to say. I blame this on those who refuse to learn but have things to say. This is real life. This is real life. I'm telling you, I don't know what's going to happen in my own life. I'm telling you, I'm afraid in my own life. I'm telling you, I'm afraid for my family in my own life. I'm afraid for how they'll deal with the stress of financial strain. Most families break up from financial strain. I don't want my family to break up. Most families end up in very, very bad situations, making even worse decisions because they have no choices. And people are chasing after silly, silly headlines instead of preparing for the next crisis. And here we are. It's coming again. That student loan bubble is about to burst. Don't let the paper economy of Wall Street fool you. Many people that are quote unquote showing up as employed are in a gig economy. They're at will. They could be fired instantly. Purged, let go, no problems, no benefits, no nothing. Poor wages. There's a girl I know who used to work in accounting who is now being paid $8.60 an hour to carry 100-pound fences around from construction sites. That's the best work she could find. But she's employed, right? I'm telling you, folks, that if you don't get focused, and listen, I want you to be aware, just so we're on even playing field. I have 2 master's degrees, not 1, but 2 master's degrees. I have a Master of Business Administration. I have a Master of Science in Technology Management. I have a graduate certificate in Strategic Management of Technology and Innovation. I have an undergraduate certificate in IT Project Management. I have formerly held the PMP certification, CCNP, Cisco Certified Networking Professional, Cisco Certified Design Professional, Cisco Sales Expert, all this stuff. And I'm struggling to find work. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I really want you to hear me because I have taken care of my education. I took care of it, and I'm struggling to find work. If you guys keep staying unfocused, the people that didn't take the time to get that schooling done, the people that don't have credentials, they're going to really get hurt. I might get really hurt too, but I want you to understand, if you take your eyes off the prize, people really get hurt. This is not a joke. When you allow people to chase you around with conspiracies, and that doesn't serve what I'm talking about right now, you are diverting things that could be helping real people. When you post stupid shit on Facebook that diverts attention from focusing on getting these things taken care of, you are hurting real people, even though you may not realize it. I don't think it's malicious, but I'm here to be the guy that tells you there's a consequence for being unfocused. There is a consequence to real people and real families and real lives. The bystander effect, ignoring the implications of economics, is the single greatest thing that is hurting not only our movement, but people in general. People of all spectrum. Even the conservatives that you may not like one way or the other, doesn't matter. I want you to understand the way money works in America is directly impacting everybody. It's in a good way if we understand it, in a bad way if we play ignorant. When we understand it, we can force our elected representatives to do things even if they're on the dole, even if they're bought and paid for. I'm telling you right now, the only reason they can get away with it is because we don't know. We refuse to learn. But when you think about this, I had to sign papers yesterday. We went to a daycare meeting with the state occupational therapist group that we're working with. And we had to sign a stack of papers. One of those papers was that we acknowledged that there's a wait list for qualified representatives to help my son. They don't have enough occupational therapists that can work with kids with autism. That's no joke. I asked them point blank, why is that? Do you not have enough money? Do you not have enough qualified people? What's the deal? And they said, honestly, they don't pay them very well, and there's a shortage of funds. So once again, lack of understanding of how economics works allows horrible situations like that to occur. To hire occupational therapists privately with your own money, it costs a lot of money, and it's one of the most important things a kid with autism can have. Inclusion specialists, people that teach them speech, people that teach them how to eat, people that help out with their sensory problems because their skin, they can't handle certain things. All funded. When you're unemployed, guess what happens to the autistic kid? Guess what happens? I'm telling you right now, I try my best to talk about this as often as I can. I use myself as a placemat for you all to use. Not because I want to. I try my best to fight through my own personal shame because we've been conditioned to feel shame. But the truth of the matter is, I know that if I don't put myself out there, no one else will. And so I would rather put myself out there and expose my wounds and my frailties and my sensitivities so that you can see the cause and effect of someone who has the degrees, who has the experience, and know that there is nobody this can't happen to. There's no one that this can't happen to. There is real answers out there in modern monetary theory. This is not like some crazy thing. I want you to be very understanding of what I'm saying. The things that we talk about within modern monetary theory are not just some sort of weird thing that we're talking about. It literally explains how the system works. So when they tell you they're broke, when they tell you they don't have money to do things, we can tell them that they're lying. When enough of us believe that they're lying, we can actually take real action. But within our own midst, we end up spending more time fighting amongst each other, trying to get people to understand that chasing rich people money doesn't pay for poor people programs. It's not because we don't want to eat the rich or whatever. It's because it literally is just vengeance. It's not paying for anything. We want the people. Like for me, all I care about is being able to put food on the table. I don't want to lose my home. That's all I care about. I don't care about soaking the rich right now. I care about surviving. And by surviving, the only way that's going to happen is if there is money in the economy that can get me a job. If you sit there and chase after rich dollars, that is not adding money to the economy. That is literally deleting money from the economy. They're not in line with each other. It's very important you understand how the system works so that we can solve climate change problems. It's very important you understand how this works so you can solve healthcare problems. I'm tired of people running off to their pet item. Oh, I'm all about green energy. Okay, good. How are you going to pay for it? If you can't answer the question, you're failing your cause. Well, I care about the environment. That's where I'm going to spend my time. How are you going to pay for it? If you can't answer the question, you're failing your cause. Well, I'm all about making sure people, don't suffer. How are you going to pay for it? Because truth is, the government is the one that spends the money into the economy. The federal government starts it and it gets through the economy. Otherwise, you're dealing with private debt and bank credit, which is another reason why people suffer. The answers are there. Suffering is optional. But it doesn't just come down to one person. It's a we thing. We all have to be engaged in this. We all have to. When you stop helping out with spreading the economic message, you put a little bit of dirt on someone's head, putting them into an early grave. That's no joke. I've just shown you empirically the cause and effect. If you're not actively fighting this battle, you are actively hurting it. If you don't understand it, there's no harm in that. Say, I don't know, we'll get help to you. But I can tell you firsthand, it's killing me. And it's really hurting my family. And I guarantee you, there's millions of other people that are in exactly the same situation. The only difference is, I have a megaphone. And I'm willing to tell my story out loud. I hope each of you take this knowledge, this message, and start working with other people. And make sure you never come to them and tell them, well, you should sell your house and sell your car and purge everything and go move across the country. And I hear they've got really great jobs in, Alaska or some bullshit like that. Or maybe if you go to Dubai, don't do it. Avoid doing something like that at all costs. It is extremely unappreciated and condescending. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives, hoping my story helps you be a better activist and helps you solve some real problems, maybe even helps you understand that you're not alone if you're suffering too. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.